Welcome back. Now, as a precursor to the next leg of our conversation, and in honoring our commitment of, playing back some of those videos that we're able to verify, we're taking one from one of our viewers. It's about a transformer that has been installed for some time now, but doesn't show any sign of life. And we're paying attention to this, perhaps to galvanize action and ensure that something is done such that those in the area can enjoy power supply. Let's have this video and then we'll be right back. And there you have it. That's the transformer in a part of Lagos. And we have this reaction also coming from one of our viewers, Kinsley Agwe, to be precise. And he says, today being 18th January 2024, I visited the NCC Learning and Communication Center that was abandoned years ago. I hope this somehow gets to the people concerned. God bless Nigeria. So let's have that as well, and then we'll continue.
That was built, for the youths. Yet, after...
And, that pretty much ties perfectly into the next leg of our conversation as we look at the challenge of abandoned projects. Thousands of them littering many parts of the country. And, some have said that with this number of abandoned projects, Nigeria's economy cannot really develop because some of these are national assets that monies have been deployed to but have been abandoned and have not been developed. Joining us to have that conversation is the founder of Connected Development, Mr. Hamzat Lawal. Mr. Hamzat, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Well, good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for having me.
Yes, Mr. Lawal, as we start off, I'd very much like to start with Nigeria moving 5 places up on the latest Corruption Perception Index released by Transparency International for the year 2023. Now, this is significant because in the last few years, Nigeria has not moved up. Nigeria had moved down in the last few years. From the outlook globally, what has Nigeria done with some perhaps aspects of its public institutions that has earned it this new outlook where we see that it has moved up?
Well, I think first is the fact that now you can see that more government data is in the public domain. Now citizens can access government budget. Now you have portals created by government to provide access to data, particularly budget data and spending data. Today, you can write a Freedom of Information letter, and in some MDAs, you'll get response and you get those information you're asking for as active citizens or as civil society. I also think, again, because of some of the commitments that have been made and also that have been followed through with this current administration, when you look at fiscal accountability, and also looking at consequences when, the right things are not being done. And just yesterday, Hadiza Bala Usman made commitment that the citizens tracker is going to come live again. So I think this is some of what the government have done that have earned them 5 points up. But that does not mean we have to fold our hands and say, oh, we're doing better and, we can just stop there. I think there's still a lot of gap because when you look at sub-national budget, because a lot of time we focus on the national budget. Nobody talks about the local government budget. Nobody talks about state government budget. And when we also look at the budget, how much revenue are we putting side by side this budget? Because again, we talk about the budget, nobody talks about spending. And even when we talk about spending, nobody talks about value for money. And if these monies are being used judiciously, and what are citizens' input in using these public resources to ensure the Nigerian people enjoying the dividends of democracy?
Mr. Aldo, I beg your pardon, Mr. Lawal. We just finished with Mr. Aldo, so permit me and forgive me. They mentioned a few things, before we go to other issues, they mentioned a few things about the weaknesses that are included in that report, which is, I want you to speak to them, and possibly what we need to do differently. Electoral corruption, judicial corruption, corruption in the security sector, which is a very big concern. wasteful expenditure, opaqueness of public institutions, failure to prosecute high-profile cases, reward of corrupt and questionable individuals with appointment. So I'd like you to speak to some of these weaknesses that have been identified in spite of scoring an extra point and moving close to zero, which by extent says that, okay, you're getting better in your attempt at fighting corruption.
Well, there's one conversation a lot of Nigerians try to shy away from. We have the executive, the legislative arm, and the judiciary arm. When you look at the budget, we can interrogate the legislative budget. When you look at the executive, we can interrogate it. But nobody is talking about interrogating the judiciary budget. Nobody knows the breakdown and the spending, and how have we audited the judiciary budget. And if we can't do that, then corruption in judiciary will continue to strive. Now, when you look at electoral fraud, it starts with the party politics. Because a lot of time we forget that before we go to the general elections, which is national, it starts with the platform, which are political party, because today we don't have independent candidacy recognized by law. So the party politics have fueled corruption in our electioneering system, because money always exchange hand when they do their party primaries. And this is not only about the big parties, most of the political parties, to be fair to some of them, and with the delegate system. So all of these aspirants have to pay their ways to become candidates. And when they are candidates and when they go around campaigning, and again, this is what society always shy away from. When you share your ideas, when you share your manifesto, and when you finish speaking all the great speech and sharing that vision, if drop something, a lot of these people will still insult you and say, oh, is it money? Or is it, what are we going to eat? Is it all of this grammar that we're going to eat? So as a society, we've lost value, instead of listening to ideas and holding people to account. And then when they get elected, of course, what do you expect? And now we're talking about abandoned project. Why wouldn't you have abandoned project when the politicians literally pay their ways into public office or bribe their ways into public office? As a society, it's really sad and unfortunate. Here, judiciary, election, public service reform, there's a whole lot to do. And, when I think about President Tinubu, I pity him. I pity him in the sense that there's a lot to be done. There's so much to do with little time. And I hope, I hope and pray that he's able to achieve that. But most importantly, as citizens, what are the agendas we're even setting up for our government and ourselves? Because we can't say we're holding government to account and we're not holding ourselves to account. So, again, I think we need to look at our value system. But as we look at them, we need to interrogate the judiciary. We need to interrogate, our party politics and what becomes of society. So that maybe next year when they do the perception index, we can continue to move higher in it. The countries that are doing well, they don't have two heads.
Absolutely. Well, two things were said, at least two things. First, this is not an indictment on the anti-corruption agencies. And of course, no specific corruption cases were mentioned. This is essentially a perception. So let's go to the work you also do. And I know we stole sleep from you, so forgive us. I mean, this is a matter of national importance, so thank you for making yourself available. You have been following the money for years now, and sometimes I go on social media and I just go on your page and I see startling discoveries, and I'm like, really? These things still happen? And we've shown a few cases. You have seen a lot more, and I imagine Nigerians will also be sending us some of those videos of projects in their areas and the rest. Just how big a challenge is this? I know there have been some wins, but just give us a sense of just how huge this challenge is it either abandoned project or projects that never even started in the first place, monies diverted and the rest. We'll talk about the success story, but give us a picture of how big this is.
You see, when I talk about the case of corruption, a lot of people think that I'm talking about issues in the space, but this is current reality. And maybe just to even start and give you a background of how we came about Follow the Money. So in 2010, there was lead poison outbreak that killed over 400 children that was reported in the news. In 2012, I was struggling to get knowledge and information. I went to the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Mines and Solid Minerals. I don't know what they call them now, but And they kept tossing me around to one department to another department. And I took an 18-hour trip, you know, from Abuja to Gusau to Anka to Bagega. And I found out that, you know, billions that was released for emergency for these children so that government can respond, humanitarian organization can respond, found its way to private pockets. So nothing was done. By the way, over 700 children had died. So it was even underreported. So that's how we, you know, started a hashtag, by the way, on Twitter called Save Bagega. Name of the community is Bagega needed to be saved. And we took, you know, videos like you just shown that citizens have sent in of abandoned, transformer or abandoned buildings. So we're sending pictures and videos on Twitter with the hashtag, and then at that time we got President Jonathan to release $5.3 million, which was close to ₦1 billion, which we then started with Follow the Money and ensure that this money does not find their way to private pockets. Now, let me take you to Niger Delta. I remember that time we're following NDDC money, which billions have been released to provide basic amenity. I can remember one case. I went to a primary health care center in the Niger Delta region. One, it was abandoned. You know, it was built but locked, and then you had grasses all over the primary health care center. And just across, a few meters across the PHC, a woman who was pregnant delivered by the roadside because this primary health care center is non-functional. I have a picture of that woman. I've posted it on Twitter, carrying her newborn baby. That was one case. I remember also when we uncovered grand corruption in NDDC, we wrote a petition to the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission. I remember we also wrote to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. I remember they invited us to their Port Harcourt office to come and endorse our petition, and one of our senior colleagues went to Port Harcourt with our lawyer just to endorse the petition, but also provide evidence. Because if you follow the money, we gather evidence. But we're not an anti-corruption agency, so what we do is we petition DSS, EFCC, police, ICPC, and hand this evidence over to them so that they can also do further investigation and then prosecute using government instruments. So I remember what happened at that time. We will get harassed, we'll get intimidated, you know, sometimes we even get threatened, using also, interestingly, government instrument to try to clap down on us or you know, or try to shut us up. I also remember another case. At that time, 9.2 billion naira was marked to procure 750,000 clean cook stove and 18,000 wonder bags. That was a big white elephant project. I remember when we started our investigation, we went to the 6th geopolitical zone. And for us, it was simple. We were asking rural women, do you know that government has committed 9.2 billion? Are you aware? Would you use this stove if government give you? A lot of these women do not know. And see, that's where the problem starts from. When government say they want to spend X amount of money, in trillions, citizens are not aware and not informed. I think most people live in bubble and think because you have Twitter, you have Facebook, or you can listen to radio, or you can watch television, it means that the information and knowledge you have, every other Nigeria have it. No, when you go to grassroots community, they don't have access to electricity. So how can they even get their radio or their television to work? A lot of this community don't have mobile connectivity, let alone data. And those that have data cannot afford data. Again, that's another conversation. But when we found out that a lot of women were not aware, they were not informed. And when you don't know, you can't ask questions. So we now approach the Ministry of Environment at that time and say, so what is the plan? How do you hope to distribute these stoves? How are you procuring these stoves? You know, and I remember at that time they said, oh, they've procured some stove. It's at the National Velodrome, you know, at the stadium. We said, can we get access? And they said no. I remember we did an investigative undercover work with ICPC and Daily Trust at that time. And then, you know, went undercover. We got video clips of the stove. Guess what? These stoves were procured under a budget line, not under this special intervention. And what they did was just to rebrand and then say, oh, it's under this. I remember that time we even had a confrontation. The Minister of Environment at that time confronted me and was even harassing me and trying to get me arrested just because, you know, we were able to expose that. I remember ICPC, you know, recovered over 5 billion and some people were prosecuted in court. That is another case. Now, I think that, you know, overall, and when you look at following the money as citizens, first is access to knowledge and information, and it has to be budgeted. And you see, Nigeria is so interesting. There's a lot of spending that is even outside the budget, and sometimes I wonder what our National Assembly members are doing, because again, for executive to spend, it must be legislated. But there's a lot of special intervention, so special, like they call it, to provide basic amenities. But you know, all of this money again find their ways to private or personal pockets of, you know, friends of people that are very powerful around government.
Well, Mr. Hamzat, as we wind down now, you've been following the money and the projects. What are your findings about the viability of some of these national assets that have been abandoned? And what really can be done, you know, such that it's not an entire loss? Because some of them are depreciating. So what can be done, you know, to the extent that some of them can still get some revenue for Nigeria?
I think first, and there's a research that was done by ICPC around abandoned projects, and I think they uncovered over 20,000 across the country. I think first is, before we even undertake project, we must undertake needs assessment. Because when you don't do needs assessment, you go to a community and you build school, and their needs is not a school. Maybe it's potable drinking water. Or you're building new blocks of classroom, but there are not enough teachers. You know, so again, is undertake needs assessment. And for the project that have been done, I don't know why government will want to spend maybe 10 million naira to build blocks of classroom. I want to spend 50 million naira to commission. And I think we need to do away with this mindset that we must, you know, go and these politicians want to commission and then put their face and their picture and put their name. No, it is public resources. And then again, for citizens, I think citizens need to wake up and start asking the right question, informed by data, because you can't ask question when you don't have data, when you don't have information. And for us as civil society, yes, we try to simplify it. We try to even translate it to Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, and other languages. We try to also use infographics so that is inclusion, you know, we have inclusion and inclusivity in sharing this knowledge and information so that people can engage, interrogate, and ask the right question. And I know that, yes, now we're trying to say, you know what, the most important ingredient in all of this conversation is trust. And there's no trust. Because you see, sometimes intervention are taken out, people don't want to use it. People do not trust in government. They don't trust in the process anymore. And for us, we're trying to rebuild back public trust. You know, yes, as we follow the money, first as people and government, we must work hand in hand together and say, you know what, if government is committing X amount of money, they need to also come clear how are they using this money judiciously and providing periodic knowledge and information. And as civil society has followed the money, we must continue to do ground truthing. Because most time what we see on paper is not what we see on the ground. So again, we must all rise to the occasion, because if we continue to have abandoned projects, what this also means is all our tax money, all our revenue that is supposed to ensure that we enjoy the dividends of democracy are not properly being used.
Mr. Lawal, my director, my producer has said we're totally out of time, but I want to appeal to you, 10 seconds. Wow. You know the issue of payment by the Federal Ministry of Works into FIM's Microfinance Bank and all of that allegation against the minister and that ministry. I would like you to speak to it in about 30 seconds. Which, according to the report done by Tracker, is contrary to the Public Procurement Act, because FIM's Microfinance Bank is not registered to carry out contracts as stated. But let's say this is an allegation. He has responded to say, well, it's not correct. So I wanted you to put that on record in 30 seconds.
See, there will be a lot of much more scandal that will happen. A few weeks ago, it was Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs with the conditional cash transfer. Now is Ministry of Agriculture. There will be so much more that would happen, because a lot of government MDs do not follow the Procurement Act set as due process. So much more would happen. All right. I can guarantee.
Hamzat Lawal, thank you so much for your time. Bukola?
Yes, indeed. If there's anything instructive that has come from this conversation, it is that following the money is a collective responsibility, not just Mr. Lawal's responsibility. Thank you so much, Mr. Hamzat Lawal, Pioneer CEO, Connected Development Code. Thank you for your time on the program.
We'll be following you too.
Where are you following?
And we have, do we have time to take some of
our we have to take all of
That's what we live for, isn't it?
Yes. So starting with WhatsApp feedback on Ekiti security, I believe that's a good place to start. Yeah. Our heartfelt heartfelt condolences to the people of Ekiti State and to members of the bereaved. Government needs to demonstrate high level of seriousness to put this whole thing to rest. That's from Olajide Precious. Thank you.
And this is tackling insecurity. It is clear we have security experts in Nigeria today, but less is done to improve security problems we face. For me to solve this insecurity issue, we need to do the following, I guess. Evaluate all security agencies in the country to fish out those who collaborate with these criminal elements. Get the right people with the technology or technological skills to operate the technology aspect of solving crime. Data mining techniques is key.
Take a look at Godwin Agia's message. By the way, always put your message. Godwin put his name. Rather, always put your name and location. You see, Godwin put his name on this one. But yeah, when he's in location. Says Ekiti State has always been peaceful, if not one of the most peaceful states in Nigeria. This is how criminality will start and snowball. The security agencies need to rise to the occasion. Insecurity in the country is an everyday talk, and it is looking more like things are not getting better, which means Nigeria is not progressing because we keep talking about one thing every day. Oof.
Thank you, Godwin. We hope that progress comes. Well, this one is from engineer Kinsley Namdi Anyako from Anambra, and he says, no one is using made in Nigeria cars, even the Senate and presidency. Dollar rise is caused by the government and greedy politicians.
And this is from Olarewaju talking about insecurity. Governor, State Assembly, local government chairmen and councillors should hold a meeting and come up with their own ways of securing their state and LGAs. They should leave infrastructure projects alone for now. If everyone is kidnapped, who will use the infrastructure?
Big question. Well, Ahmad Saidu says the only way to solve insecurity is, I imagine men say the only ways are, because there's more than one, ensure incorporation of high technology surveillance around the nation, and God-fearing military and DSS personnel should handle it. Then second one is the confidence of those fighting for the country is not there because their thinking is that what will happen to their family after they're gone?
Good question there. And Yemo247 has some good counsel for Nigeria as well. He says, or they say, we have dollarized our economy so bad that our focus is on the dollar rate versus making the naira strong. Let the naira find its real value and don't peg it against the dollar. Buy local, eat local, reduce your long throats for foreign goods. That hit hard.
And this from Faye. Say if you make 500 naira per day, or 5,000 naira, I should say, per day, and save everything without spending 1 naira, in 3 years you still won't make up to $4,000. Ouch, that's
well, Avero underscore Don actually on X has this one. Lagos to London, 11 million naira. Really? What's going on? You still want to go study abroad? That's actually the real point of that particular post on X. So I'm not sure if you're talking about business class and then
I think
what
he's also using pounds
really?
now.
And your school, but
not just the ticket cost.
Well,
oh boy,
it's executive class, first class. You're traveling luxury.
That would mean, traveling abroad now will cost you the same amount that you require to build a house.
This one is from OA. Right? It says 1 million naira used to be life-changing money at some point in time because right now, with less than $1,000, you already arrived at 1 million naira.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
I think we should just do. I think there's one more person. When you dash the hope of the people and. Okay, let's just leave that.
Thank you so much for your comments.
I wanted to read all of them, but we don't have so much time.
Yeah, we're totally out of time. Thank you so much for your comments and for being part of the program today. Join us again tomorrow when we bring you another edition. I am Bukola Koka.
I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And I'm Kaido Kikulu. To have a great day. Goodbye.